My beautiful, smart, graceful wife decided a few months ago to buy me a pile of broken GameCubes that she found on eBay. Little did she know at the time, she had just bought me another tech waste. We already experienced one of these on the channel a while back. That one came loaded with cockroaches. This bad boy is missing the optical drive, a shield, a bunch of screws, and even the spring for the lid. Thankfully, it does come with a broken shell, what I think is roach killer, and has previously been flooded. Without further ado, let's see what we learn. So let me show you the beautiful condition of this thing. Right away, it's wet on top. It claims to have a dead motor, but there is no motor. It's dirty all the way around in every crevice. Literally just dirt. So I think this thing survived the flood. Well, I don't know that I'd say it survived. But this thing experienced a flood. I think I can make that assessment. Didn't even pay attention. Okay, it does have the fan. Cool, I hope the fan motor's good. That's about the only thing I haven't ordered a replacement for. God, this poor thing. Just dirt everywhere. I don't know why that other screw doesn't want to come out. All right. Where do we even start, man? Well, I mean, first I just have to disassemble everything and clean up what I can. So I have a full replacement shell, so we don't have to reuse this, but I still want to use as much as I can of this one. I mean, just, there's so much dirt. It's so weird. I think it's dirt. I can't think of what else it would be. There's so much dirt in there. There's a screw that's just chilling right there. I think I'd like that at some point. Not only do I not have the optical drive, I also don't even have the shield that goes between the optical drive and the motherboard. This screw is very concerning. I mean, the board looks really good. This battery has got to go. And I also don't see any corrosion on the inside of these ports, which is really good. I really expected to see some corrosion there, and I thought I was going to have to replace these ports, which would have been a nightmare. I'll need to swap out our CMOS battery, just give this a general clean, but honestly, this isn't that dirty at all. I'm wondering if this was even a part of the system originally, or if somebody tried to swap this to solve the problem. Because I don't see any of that dirt or rust or anything. Here's the edge of the faceplate. We can still see tons of dirt. Okay, I feel like I'm not providing any valuable commentary every time I talk about the color of dust, so instead I've decided we're going to talk about the color of dirt. The dirt where I live looks nothing like this. This guy might be toast. Let's see. Ooh, baby. So here's our switch. Our power input. I was about to say, from what I can tell, this dude looks like he's in pretty good shape, but that contact might be a little telling. Wait, why are these contacts even here? That's so weird. These don't touch anything. Anyways, there's our fan. Back of the fan housing. I don't know if they need to be replaced, but we're going to replace all of the thermal pads on this. The heatsink itself is very dirty. I see a screw that's pretty far gone. Here's our rusted screw that I was talking about. So we're dealing with a little dusty around these chips where the heatsink wasn't, but okay with that. What we want to see is the legs on these chips. I want to make sure that nothing looks too far gone. So these ports are pretty dang corroded. Looking at the inside, unbelievably dirty, especially this dude, you can kind of see it pretty well. But the contacts, aside from being dirty, I don't see corrosion. So maybe there's hope. Very clean down here. I just see a little bit of corrosion here and some up here, which I think is just because the shield underneath this rusted. Replacing this port specifically would kind of suck, I'd probably want to take my hot air gun to it. Off in the pile he goes. Let's free this shield. And there is the rust on the shield. A little bit more right there. You know, honestly, not bad. The bug-infested consoles were much worse than this one in terms of rust. Well, our power supply is free. So I have every capacitor for this thing, for the entire system. So if we need to recap this thing, I have what we need to do that. I'm not sure what cap this is. The 220 is what's confusing me. It looks massive. The actual contacts that lead from the power supply to the board, again, they look incredible. And I don't see corrosion anywhere on the board. And again, the bottom is really good condition. This might be fine, guys. I'm not sure what to think. It came with a bias that I wasn't going to be able to fix this thing. And I'm starting to regret that bias because I've been putting this off for weeks, but I think you guys would have loved to enjoy this. Oh, man. Oof. All right. This one's not as bad. And this one doesn't actually have any rust on it. Surprising. This is what we're left with. That's why that screw didn't want to come out. It's rusted in there. There we go. Got him out. Well, obviously the first thing everything needs is cleaned. Every single thing here needs a nice, very deep clean. Well, we'll start with vacuuming. Wow, look at the vacuum go and enjoy not hearing the sound of the vacuum go off. Wow. I'm a big boy. I can admit when I was wrong. Vacuuming is not going to be good enough. I'm going to have to brush this stuff out. Oh, this is going to need to soak. Okay. Interesting. I really thought this this yellow stuff was just going to scrub away with the brush. But no, this needs to be cleaned. All of this is going to need to soak. I mean, I'll brush off some stuff as I go through this. If you've watched the channel for a while, you might know that I've really struggled cleaning heat sinks before, and you might know how satisfying this is to me, that I now have the right tools for basic things like this. Okay, I think I've just kind of brushed off everything it wants to brush off on this. It looks better. It still needs a proper clean. This dust just doesn't want to come up. Now I can kind of examine it better and see if there's any more corrosion. And honestly, it's just these two ports that I need to be worried about. So there might be a world where I can just get those in the vinegar. I don't know. If I just go like this, I get some of this, some of this. I don't love that. I have to think. Either way, that's as done as it's going to be for now. So here's the deal. In my experience, when I see yellow on consoles like this, if you don't know, when you see yellow stuff like this, you should be concerned that that is insecticide. And I really thought when I saw this the first time that this was insecticide all over the outside. But now, you know, I see no indication of infestation anywhere inside this console. I just see indication of flood damage. So now I'm kind of confused because I thought this was going to be insecticide, but it genuinely appears to be dirt, which is so much weirder because what dirt is this color? Anyways, all that's to say, you should wear PPE, kids. So all plastic pieces are going to get a nice long soak. I'm not going to just go straight to cleaning. That stuff's caked in there pretty good, so we're going to let it get a nice long soak. I'll change the water. We'll probably have to clean everything multiple times. Everything else, put it in the vinegar. The screws, I think I have replacements for everything, so it should be fine. Okay, this is gonna be so much vinegar. We'll take a look at that tomorrow and see what, if anything, is left. We will let this stuff soak. Yeah, you never know what's underneath the jewel. This stuff's nasty. Man, the amount of floaties already. This is gonna be a clean and a half. It's really important to note, my camera never does a great job at picking up all the dirt. So looking at it right now, this right here, the lid, looks really clean for you guys. I mean, just looking inside the Nintendo logo, like the coloration there, and then you can see the bubbles in the reflection of the light. Those bubbles, that's all dust and dirt and whatever. So this might look clean-ish. It isn't. I felt the need to point that out because the camera sucks at picking this up, and to emphasize that anything that comes out of this water is going to be dirty because of the contamination of the water. So this needed a second cleaning. I'm also realizing while editing that none of that matters because I end up using a different shell, and I was just cleaning this because the yellow stuff scared me, which I'm thinking was roach killer given the fact that the bugs kind of floated in the water after the initial soak. Anyways, I'm going to cut the rest of the cleaning, but first, at this point one of my key lights decided it was time to start flashing, and whenever I decided I was going to fix it, it decided to stop. It lasted that way until I put my gloves back on to continue cleaning, and then it started again. Since then, I've had a chance to actually look at the thing. There's something leaking out of the plug that goes into the outlet, so where the power supply is. I'm assuming a capacitor's gone bad or something. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to open it. Maybe we can try to fix it on the channel. Maybe it's a $20 key light and we shouldn't even think about it ever again. Either way, it sucked. Yeah, this lighting sucks. I don't think I want to film like this. I think I'd rather just skip ahead and show you guys the end product. Okay, so I went and got some new lights. It's supposed to be an upgrade. They're these umbrella lights. I feel like it's casting more shadows than I would like. It just makes it really dark on camera. They're also very warm, so maybe I need different bulbs. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna try to film with these and then see how the editing process goes and if I can live with this. To me, it seems like the glare is even worse with these. I used to just have key lights. If you're a lighting nerd, I used to just LED key lights, multiple of them. It kind of gave this overexposed thing I had to deal with in editing. I mean, on camera right now, this looks completely different, but the way that this looks on my phone compared to on my color accurate monitor is completely different. So I couldn't stand the warmer look while I was filming. It sucked to work in, so I got new bulbs, and you guys already saw the result in last week's PlayStation repairs. For now, I'll just fix all this in editing, and this is the result of said editing. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and give these guys a quick clean, just with some alcohol to get us started, and then I'll decide if anything needs to go in the ultrasonic cleaner and what that might look like. The contacts look okay, so I don't think I'll need to replace the wire. I can't really see in there, but I mean, it really takes a lot for you to kill a wire, doesn't it? Getting in these ports is going to be difficult. This is something I might want to throw in the ultrasonic cleaner. We'll think about it. Yeah, we can get in there okay on these, but I am okay with how we're doing right now. All right, so as I'm cleaning this, I'm definitely noticing there's quite a bit of oxidation on this. I mean, we'll test functionality and go from there, but I assume we're good. And I got to figure out what I'm doing about these two ports, because I think they're possibly too far gone. I don't think my hot air station's a good idea. This port right here kind of scares me. And it's got a gajillion contacts, so just dropping it out doesn't really seem fair. I mean, I could put some tape here, and then maybe the hot air station doesn't destroy it, but I just don't feel great about that. So if I'm replacing these ports, then like I'm probably just getting my solder sucker and taking ages on them. Wow, this would be a really long project. So I'd really rather not do that. So if the pins are okay, maybe we run with it. Oh no, let's clean this up. I mean, I feel like it's cleaning this up a bit. Maybe it's worth it. Maybe I pick at this a bit right now. Let's try it. I was thinking this wasn't in the cards for me. Here's the deal. I don't actually see anything that makes me think these ports would not function. I see a very compelling reason to replace them. They're hideous. Like, actually looking at this, you know, this corrosion hasn't impacted anything that's vital. This corrosion hasn't impacted anything that's vital. And the pins, we'll just use this guy as an example because it's easier for you guys to see. I mean, they're dusty, they're dirty, but I don't see anything, again, I don't see a level of corrosion on there that makes me think that we're toast. Also, picking that corrosion off didn't do anything for me. So that's probably not my move. I shouldn't avoid replacing them just because it would be annoying. But I also want to like use as much of the original as I can. That is gonna do on the fan, I guess. At least for now. Due to my fascination with complementary colors, we'll be wearing some orange gloves for a while. So, I've been letting this stuff cook for over 24 hours now. We can take a peek and see what it looks like. I've peeked on it here and there. I know it's not done cooking. Some of it's ready to come out, so I'll grab that stuff. My camera does not do that justice. That is so gross. Like, the color of it is incredible. It looks like this dude is immaculate. I did end up putting the screws in there. These might be further along than I realized because there was still some rust on this, but once I brushed it, it came right off. So let's see. Let's just focus on the screws for now because I think those are gonna be the easy wins. Okay, so we do not want to clean this guy up at all. Yeah, this has already lost some threading. Can I pick that up on camera? Ooh, I kind of can. I have spare screws now, so we don't have to worry about that. I think I might be realizing that I know nothing about this. This sat for a very long time. I mean, it's been 24 hours, and I'm watching these YouTube videos and everybody else is just getting rust falling off of things after 24 hours. What's up, bro? So is this where I figure out that this toothbrush is the problem and that it's just not powerful enough? Quite possibly. Let's grab a white bristle pad. This might be the move. Oh god, there's so much vinegar just going straight up my nose. Thank god I use the weak stuff. This way I don't need to trim my nose hairs this week. With the elbow grease and the vinegar, like we've done something here. Yeah, I mean it seems like the elbow grease is doing a whole lot more than the vinegar is. But how much of this would be possible without the vinegar? I don't know. Yeah, I think I might be able to just pick this away a little bit. And I think it's safe, as long as I make sure I treat this after. Yeah, that wants to come up. With the discovery of this new tech, I just picked away what I could. I let my pokey, pointy thing rest on the metal, and I swiped back and forth without applying any pressure that could force bits off that didn't want to come off. I'm sure the comments are going to come in with some hot, better tech, but this did the thing fine enough for me. I mean, I think that's good enough. I think we managed to avoid doing any damage to the metal. Oh wow, that looks so much worse on camera. Okay, it's a whole lot more gray rather than rusted in person. Anyways, I think it's good enough that I can go ahead and take this one out. So the question is, can I get these good enough? I bet I can get this one good enough. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Again, I know it might come across weird on camera. I mean, I don't know how to look after I edit this, but very gray in person. This thing though. Now I spent half an hour picking away what I could on the power board shield. This one didn't come out nearly as well as the other metal bits, and reinforced that maybe this wasn't the correct approach here, and I should patiently await the hot new tech the comments are going to have. The corners especially still suck. All that being said, it's been 2 weeks since I did this, and the shield hasn't flash rusted, so I'm starting to think that maybe I did get away with it. I don't know. You guys tell me. I think that's good, so let me just give this dude one good final rub down. I don't think we're going to do any better, so all I can really do is hope that mineral oil, or whatever it's called, grabs the rest of this. Okay, so first we dry. This one will be my mineral oil one. That's so much. As always, I use entirely too much. And then this one is just to dry off any excess oil. This is how we ended up. I hope the coloration actually comes through. It's not amazing, and maybe I should just try to replate this stuff. I think no, I don't want to try that. I mean, this stuff's been sitting for a minute, so like it might already be dry, which would be a little bit of an issue. Because you really don't want the vinegar to dry. Okay, that's a mess, Matthew. I wish we would have done better with the rust, such is life, you know? The screws were completely rust-free when I took them out, and they've already got rust on them again. So I've mentioned it before, but like you have to be careful to avoid flash rust when you take things out of vinegar. And this is what I mean. If you don't treat the metal quick enough, it'll just rust right back. It doesn't mean that those are a lost cause. I do have plenty of spares, so I'm not going to worry about that though. I am going to stop filming for the night because it is late and I'm tired of you people. I got our replacement ports in. I got our replacement thermal pads. I've got our CMOS battery. In theory, I've got everything we need to finish with this and move on. I'm gonna go ahead and try to drop these ports out and replace them. Now it's a question of how. I've been thinking about it quite a bit because I used the solder sucker in the Nintendo 64 repair and I damaged the traces because my solder sucker obviously has a metal tip. I must have used too much pressure or just caught it at just the right angle. No matter what, I managed to damage the solder mask and caused myself issues where some pins were bridged. Now on that specific repair, those specific pins, it didn't matter. But on this one, I mean, looking at all these tiny, tiny little solder joints, that would be pretty terrible. So I don't know that I want to use the solder sucker. So I'm not using the solder sucker. Wick is probably not my answer either. I could probably get away with it. It would just be a lot of wick and it would take a really long time. And again, my concern would be damage to traces and solder mask. I'd have to be very careful not to drag the wick. So I don't have nice solder wick. I have
perfectly acceptable beginner wick.
So that approach doesn't speak to me. Okay, so the two main methods I use for removing larger components are out of the question. So what do I do here? Well, there's the hot air gun. I have a cheap hot air station. It's a brand that doesn't exist and it gets up to like
500 degrees Celsius.
I think a hot air station for something like this makes a ton of sense because I don't mind if I damage the ports. I don't care if they melt a little bit. I think it makes a lot of sense. The problem is this is plastic. This has plastic. There's these tiny little chips right here. I think the hot air station would damage all of this. And while I do have tape, I just don't think the tape would be enough with the proximity. And also the size, this is gonna get hot. So I don't think the hot air station is correct. So what we're gonna start with is Chip Quick. I'm gonna use low melt solder and we'll see how that goes. My concern is number one, I haven't had success with Chip Quick before. It's a skill issue, but nonetheless, I haven't had success, so I'm a little apprehensive about it. And then also, this is just so many solder joints. Is the Chip Quick gonna be good enough here? You guys normally don't get to hear that much thought. I am gonna use this stuff that comes with the Chip Quick. I don't know if I need to or if my flux is fine, but it says for low temp, so we'll try it. Time to make some fumes.
I think it's really important to keep in mind here that I acknowledge that I have a skill issue. I'm very new and have no idea what I'm doing. With that being said, I decided to start by spreading the Chip Quick with my iron and realized pretty quickly that I wasn't going to be able to drop this out with just my iron. I was actually going to need to use my hot air gun. So, since it was low melt, I didn't really mind the idea of having my hot air around all the plastic because the warmest that it's going to get is 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 200 degrees Celsius, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. After working with the hot air gun for a while, for some reason I decided this still wasn't enough Chip Quick, so I added a little bit more so I had a nice, even, gigantic blob across everything. Once I had that nice, beautiful blob, I went back to the hot air gun and just kind of chilled for a while until something happened. And now, after several attempts, I have finally used low melt solder to successfully remove a component, which probably isn't the flex that it sounds like it is to me, but I've successfully done it, and I even did it with something that wasn't surface mounted, which is kind of what this stuff is for, and I'm just an idiot and probably should have still just used the solder sucker, but we try new things here. Anyways, so now comes the part where I have to clean all this up. And you're probably thinking, thank God that we've moved through the worst of it. So I actually make a bigger mess while trying to clean this up, and you guys are in for a treat. So first off, this takes a ton of solder wick. I finish up the roll that I've been using since the start of the channel and then have to start a whole new roll later. And it goes through a lot of solder wick. And again, maybe it's a skill issue or maybe it's just the fact that this is a gigantic amount of solder. But that takes forever. At this point, I also realized that it's just not wicking as well as it should. And while this is cheap wick, this should still be coming up a little bit easier. And I realized that with all this black stuff on the board, this burnt flux is probably hurting me a whole lot more than it's helping me. So I start cleaning this stuff off, which takes like 5 minutes on its own. And the board's not cold. It's just that this stuff is that committed, I guess? I don't know. It does not want to go anywhere. Also, I try several times and I can never wick up that bit of solder that's on the ground pad at the bottom. That is a feature. That is a staple of this board. That is my signature mark. That thing's not going anywhere. So we have that now. The next obvious problem that I realized was that I was using the wrong tip. You guys have told me several times to use a chisel tip, so I got confused and used a knife tip. The thing is, I normally use a chisel tip for desoldering, but I guess it just doesn't show up well on camera. So I now know this, and I can tell you for a fact, I use a chisel tip or a bevel tip, just depending on how large of an area I'm trying to deal with. But yeah, for some reason, I decided to use a knife tip for a while. That goes terribly, because why would that have worked? Then I try to use a solder sucker, and that doesn't go great for me either, because it doesn't really have anything to grab onto. But also, it just melts because it's like a $2 solder sucker. I am committed to making every single part of this bad for myself. Realizing that I wasn't going to get anywhere with the situation that I was currently in, I step back, I clean the board again, I apply some fresh flux, I change over to a nice large bevel tip, and we get back after it. I then spend the next 15 minutes sitting here wicking, applying fresh flux, applying fresh solder to my iron, cleaning the board, wicking, doing it over and over for 15 straight minutes, on top of the 45 minutes that I've already been doing this. Eventually realizing that I've been after this for a full hour and feel like the board kind of looks like it's in crap condition, but being grateful that I haven't actually done any damage, I figure it's probably time for me to take a proper break and just come back and finish this later.
All right, so I cleaned this up quite a few more times and still couldn't quite finish it up. Took a break to give myself a chance to think, and I've got an idea on how we can actually get in there. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of cut the wick into a triangle shape, feed that into the hole, and use a solder tip that can actually fit in there. And I think that can get this the rest of the way. You can see like all of these are still clogged. Some are just clogged with flux, some have solder in them, and it's just kind of hard to tell. We'll come back to that at the end when it's time to go ahead and put these in, because I'm thinking I'm probably going to have some similar ones over here. These pins are a whole lot larger, it looks like, and there's also significantly less. So I don't think this will be as big of an issue as this one. I did think the heat gun worked really well for me, so I'm going to stick with that. I've taped this off because I wasn't super comfortable with this not being taped off when we did it the first time. So I've got this taped off. Hopefully I won't melt any plastic. Allegedly this tape is safe up to like 500 degrees. We are working below 500. Now, I did realize after the fact, I'm not using Kapton tape, I'm using Kaptan tape. I don't know what we should expect, but maybe this will work okay for us.
Now that I have all that confidence in my tape, I got after it, and I learned from all of my previous mistakes. We decided this time that we're going to do the exact same thing as last time. I used entirely too much low melt solder. Made a big old mess. After a while, I realized that still wasn't working too well for me, so I decided to add even more Chip Quick. And then I raised the heat some more. And then I used some more of Chip Quick's flux. And then some more normal flux. And then I went ahead and I called a priest, and finally the thing came out. At this point, I remembered that my stupidity is terminal and decided to get some more solder on the board because that worked so great when I was working on the last port. So now we have another little feature. This one actually did come up later, so that's not that big of a deal. At this point, I'm also just about to run out of my old solder wick, as I mentioned earlier. So we're about to move into the new stuff, which I picked up at Harbor Freight, so it's dirt cheap and probably not much better than what I got from Amazon. But to give it the fairest chance possible, once I ran out of this wick, I decided to clean the board, go ahead and apply some fresh new flux, and just see how it does. And it blows me away. It is the best money I've ever spent in my life. It is a day and night difference. The stuff that I got on Amazon, absolute junk in comparison to this stuff from Harbor Freight. And I think they're the same cost. Like, this stuff's so much better, it's not even funny. Now with the left side clear, I decided to go back to the right side with our new wick. And I went ahead and cut it at an angle and used a smaller tip on my iron to get into the holes to try to wick everything up. As you can very clearly see here, it had an outcome, and you can just see for yourself exactly how that went. Anyways, I just kind of did this thing over and over again until I got all of the holes clear, and this worked out just fine, and we were able to move on and do something that wasn't wicking away solder for the first time in over 2 hours.
I'm so sorry for everybody who just watched this. I'm sure that was very painful for you guys. Don't worry, because the pain is not over yet. I've seen the work that I do. Let's wipe this side down too, because I'm sure it also has all kinds of gunk on it. He says, staring at the gunk on it. God, I hope this is good for you guys. This is, just removing these 2 ports is 2 hours of footage, over 2 hours of footage. Mad respect to people that are actually good at this stuff. These actually snapped into place, so I don't have to like tack them in and take my, they idiot proof it, so we're just good to go.
Is this too much flux? I can never really tell. So I would start off by claiming that this is definitely the best solder job on the channel, but I've learned quite a bit since doing this, so I'm going to call out a couple things that I did wrong here. Shout out to the guy who wrote the comment that's on screen right now. He sent me down this rabbit hole, which brings me to this really important point. There is absolutely no solder on my iron. That makes it harder to conduct effective heat transfer while also increasing the risk of your iron oxidizing. So do better than me. Also, I didn't even realize until now that I occasionally rub the pad with my iron for some reason, and that's got to be how I damaged the board on the Nintendo 64 and what happened to some of the yellow coating around the pins here. As far as what went well here, I held my iron in place for a couple seconds to warm up the post and the pad, and then I applied the solder directly to the contacts rather than to the iron itself, and that really helps ensure that the solder and the contacts are the same temperature, which reduces those stalagmites that I was complaining about in the Nintendo 64 repair, and it gives us much better joints. However, a few times I almost have to push the solder into those contacts, which is a symptom of the contacts being too cold due to the lack of solder on my iron. So just having solder on the iron probably would have done so much more for me here. I'm terrified to go back and watch my previous repairs now. Oh, and my hand blocked all of the work on the second port, so, yeah.
Okay, let's clean this up and see if it's as good as I think it is. But it looks phenomenal. If it's as good as it looks like it is, this is by far my best soldering job. Guys, that is what's up. Okay, it's immaculate from this side. So we definitely have contact. Yeah, I'm really pleased with that. I mean, there's still some stalagmites going on. Obviously the post was still just a little too cold, but I'm pretty happy with that. That pillowing on the left, I don't love. This pin right here, so it might be a little cold. I mean, I'm in the neighborhood. Let's just reflow it right now. You know, I guess maybe his counterpart could be reflowed. You know what? This dude, I'm not loving it.
Now with my targets identified, I just went ahead and reflowed. Man. We're gonna have to work on that. Anyways, see how I remembered to put solder on my iron this time? That's sick.
Yeah, I think that's better. And let's get this tape off. Well, the port appears to have survived. There's definitely a whole bunch of burnt flux in here, so we're just gonna wipe down the port itself, try to get some of the residue from the tape off. I think we're good. I think that's clean. I don't think that should offend anybody. If it does, I'm sorry. So now what I'm gonna do is replace the CMOS battery on that other board. Yeah, unfortunately, this dude didn't get quite flush. I don't know how that happened, because I mean it did snap into place, and I guess I fell asleep at the wheel. So if that doesn't sit well in the shell, that's on me. That's my bad. So we just need to go ahead and free up these two joints. Okay, so my electronic solder sucker just ain't gonna do it. And do I think that would work? Probably not. It'd probably destroy the nozzle on it anyways. What do? Well, the solder sucker can free up this leg. If this leg's freed, then this one will just drop right out. Or I can just heat one side at a time and just, yeah, I'll just heat one side at a time. We're overcomplicating this for absolutely no reason.
So at this point, I'm still an idiot and thought that I was using a chisel tip when I used this knife tip to do this. Which, I mean, it did fine because, like, fundamentally, we're really not trying to heat anything complicated here. But obviously, I wouldn't do this again. This is just because I'm a little stupid, so it just ended up happening this way. But this was easy. I mean, it just came right out, and then the new one went right in, and there was no complications here. I didn't make it harder than I needed to, aside from using the wrong tip.
And now we clean. Brother, that flux went everywhere. Holy cow, I made a mess. I should call him. I'm happy with that. Today's solder jobs, I feel like went pretty well as far as like the actual soldering's concerned. All right, we're ready to put thermal pads on and hopefully test this thing. So I found different answers online about what size thermal pads to use on these. I'm gonna go with my best judgment and follow Reddit's advice and not go with what the eBay sellers show. I'm gonna go with 1.5 and 1. That's what I think I've decided on. Okay, so allegedly this is 1 millimeter and then this one is 1.5. Okay, and I'm doing what with these? I'm gonna put the 1 millimeter on these two RAM chips, and then the 1.5 millimeter I'm gonna put on the GPU and the CPU. There we go. I think that's fine. They're gonna get smushed down a bit by the heat sink, so maybe I'm supposed to cut them a little bit smaller than I did. Okay, that is about the worst job you could do cutting a square. You're welcome. Okay, I do believe I have made this significantly worse. That didn't take me very long at all. Hey brother, do you wanna... No, it's no big deal. It's just, but I mean like if you wanted to... Okay, I think that's fine enough. It's not as centered as I'd like it, but I don't think it's gonna hurt anything. I mean, this isn't gonna be my proudest work either, but what are you gonna do, improve? All right, this is the handiwork that we've ended up with. It is in fact handiwork. Okay, I think we're good to reassemble. Let's see what happens. I see contact between the thermal pads and the heatsink. Will you guys get to see that or no? Nope, only I get to see that. Okay. Get this dude dropped in. So this seems to be sat well. Let's go ahead and tighten it down, but I want to specifically start with these and I just want to make sure that we don't have any problems. Perfect. Okay. Fantastic. Learn from my mistakes on the Nintendo 64, and I'm just going to make sure that we don't get continuity here, because that would be unfortunate. Perfect. No, dude, you'd never know. Okay. That was a really big concern of mine. Okay. Let's see what happens. We get a light. What? Okay, so the controller is not working. Okay, hang on, that did something. I was able to move that. Okay. Now we go back to port number 1. Okay, I don't know what that was about, but it works now. Maybe the ports are just dirty. So if that's the case, let me go through and test them one by one. So 1 works, 2 works. Yeah, they're just dirty. Okay. That's easy to deal with. There we go. And I bet 4 is gonna give me the same issue. Yeah. That's fine, dude. And now 4 is fine. Back to 1 and just make sure. Okay. So this is crazy. Let's try a game. I'm filming, right? Okay. And I have not heard the laser or the optical drive at any point. Okay, that's kind of what I expected. So I am gonna wreck this poor eBay seller. Dude, did you send me a broken drive? What? It could be the switch. The lid switch. Because I mean, it's not even trying to read it. The laser never moved. It's still in the same position that it was. And I never heard the spindle motor go. Oh, and you know what? There's still one more thing I gotta test. Do you know how hard it is to find one of these things? These are ridiculously expensive. I had to get a third-party one because an OEM one was over $300. I don't think there's any way you guys are gonna get to experience this, because there's no way my upscaler has a way to deal with this. So this has to go straight into my TV. Okay, that port works too. Now we work out why it won't read a game. That'll do it. What happened here? You were fine when I started to reassemble you. Did I break you? That makes me a pretty big loser, doesn't it? Did you just snap back in? No, that was not right at all, and I have made this worse. Did you ever work, is the next question. Let's take this off. At the very least, I need a better look at it. If not, I need to replace it. Yeah, I think this was bad when I got it. I might have a replacement somewhere. Is there a spring in this that's gonna go flying? Okay. They move freely right now. I don't understand. It's just when the lid is put back on, they don't. Well, these guys are supposed to be able to move whenever the lid closes, just like that. But for some reason, this really wants to come with them. They're supposed to move independently of this top layer. So why is it that they can't? So between these two, there's this metal piece that... Oh. No, I don't get it. I don't think it was supposed to be between those. Okay, I think this switch is just bad. Okay, it just so happens I actually do have another switch. So, we can use this one. Wow, that's dirty. Just take the moment to clean something before you sell it to someone. I don't think there's a difference between the Japanese shell and the NTSC shell that would have caused the switch to break. So I don't think I broke the switch. I think the switch from the eBay seller was just dead. Let's see if it works. It still powers on. Cool. So I didn't destroy anything. I do think I heard the laser that time. Oh, come on. One time. Okay. The disk drive is making noise. It's spinning the disk right now. Is it gonna... Oh, it reads it! What? That's crazy. Dude, this thing should be dead. Nope, nobody should be playing this console. Dudes. That's crazy. Okay, that's gonna do it for this one. Let me know down in the comments below, did you think I was gonna bring this thing back, or did you think that we were looking at a lost cause? Anyways, if you enjoy the content, leave a like, and if you'd like to see more just like this, consider subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next video.